Been looking for a house with no walls or no whispers, no hiding places, no secret sister. Been looking for a house that won't shelter a lie, no tear-stained past or reason to cry. I wanna live in a house.
This is Empowering Women Everywhere. I am your host, Nan Gill, and today our guest is Latyna Humphrey. She's from Ohio. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Latyna is the current president of the Central Ohio Young Black Democrats. She was appointed as president of the organization. The Central Ohio Young Black Democrats are chartered under the Ohio Democratic Party. She's a graduate of the Columbus East High School, and in addition, a graduate of Columbus State Community College with an Associate of Arts in Political Science. And she's currently studying for her Bachelor's of Science from the Franklin University, majoring in applied psychology. Ms. Humphrey is a tremendous champion for minorities. She is a mother, community leader, organizer, speaker, and an advocate for women's rights. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's so wonderful for you to be here.
I know.
We're very excited to find out about your work and what you're doing. You want to tell us a little bit about your programs?
Yes. So, as you said, I am president of the Central Ohio Young Black Democrats. I am the first female president of that organization. But now I'm moving into more of an entrepreneurial role. I am the principal and owner of Latyna Humphrey, LLC, which is a business that seeks to guide and direct and build up women leaders in civic spaces. So to help them in spaces of politics, consult in spaces of social justice, and things like that. I'm also a candidate for Central Committee for the Franklin County Democratic Party to be Ward 35's committee woman. So super excited about that. Election is March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. And I just do a plethora of different things, but I'm here and I'm just so excited for you to have me.
Oh, we're happy to have you too.
Yes,
what is your biggest passion?
Wow, that's a good question. My biggest passion is to help develop the next set of leaders. And I do that a little bit, or I do that a lot in Central Ohio Young Black Democrats. I help them to think consciously. I help them to, speak up and use their voices on behalf of minorities, on behalf of the underserved and the underprivileged. We go out and we advocate for our communities, which 9 times out of 10 are your poorer communities that are struggling. And my passion is really just to make sure that I am helping people and putting people in positions to be the best that they can be. Because we know that we all have purpose, and my goal is just really to get people to start to realize that purpose that they have inside of them.
I understand that you wrote a book.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit about your book?
Yes. So here's the book here. It is Girl, You Can Do This, I Did.
Let me see.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And she did. She really did.
Right.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a backstory. So I got into politics about 4 years ago, and I didn't get into it traditionally. I started by serving. I drove back and forth to Flint, Michigan from Columbus, Ohio to help with the Flint water crisis. And I gave them my water, I gave them my money, and I did that for 6 months bi-weekly off my own dime. And from there, I became president of Central Ohio Young Black Democrats, secretary of the Ohio Young Black Democrats, and really becoming a leader across the country. And so I wrote this book because I wanted to inspire the next woman who, like me, only has an associate's degree or doesn't have any degree at all, but has a heart to serve,
right.
To develop that confidence that they need to be successful in whatever that they decide to do. And so, yeah, I created this book for the woman that's trying to get it together, that's trying to kick it in gear. And my hope is that it helps them.
So what you're telling me is that if a woman does not have a college degree, that she's a stay-at-home mom, or if she's working just to pay the bills, even if she's a single parent, she can be involved in making the place better and actually increasing her share of the bounty that's in this country.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is for women who want to become leaders, and it's for women who just want to become better. And like I tell people, I plan to write more books that are more politically focused, but this book specifically is just for the woman to be the best that she can be, because I believe before you can go try to change the world, you have to be okay in here.
Right.
You know? And so that's what this book is about.
So give us some hints about how you become okay in here.
So I think personal affirmation was key for me. So December of 2015, I was laying in my bed. I was so upset about a breakup. And I was like, you know what? I'm sitting here depressed about whatever. And I know that I have purpose inside of me. And so what I did for the next month or two is I would wake up, you are wonderful, you are purposeful, you are capable, you are able. And I did it over and over and over and over until I really started to believe it. And so what they can expect to see and hear is to learn some affirmations that they need to say about themselves so that they can start to believe it, because the reality is, it's true.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what is your feeling about spirit?
About spirit as far as
The Lord?
the Lord. Oh, okay. About, you know what, God is good. You know, I would not be here without, you know, Him. Personally, I prayed to Him that night, and I said, look, I know what you called me to do. You called me to nations. You called me to speak to women, and where I am right now is not reflecting where I know you called me to go. And so I prayed to Him, and what He did was strategically line my life up, so much so that I don't even recognize my life now in comparison to 4 years ago, because He has shifted, and it was all because I was obedient. I was not perfect, but I was obedient to what He said. Me, that I was purposeful and I was capable, and He told me to get up. He told me to get up from there and go do what I called you to do. And from that day, I ran for my life. That's how I came up. I said, you know what? There's an issue going on in Flint. Like, I could really help with this.
Right.
What I did was, and it was timing. God is so strategic.
Oh, my Lord.
Timing, because I had just got my tax return. And He said, you know what? You fix your Toyota 2007 Toyota Camry up. You fix it up, and I'll take care of you. I bought waters, and like I said, I drove 4 hours back and forth for 6 months of my own dime, and I listened to Him. And I think that, you know, you want to be obedient to God all the time, but when you really listen to that instruction, He will carry you to where you need to be. And me listening to Him and sacrificing so much, a lot of people didn't understand. My own mother didn't understand. Why are you driving back and forth here? And now they look at me and they're like, okay, so now we see who you was listening to and why you were listening to Him.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes, ma'am.
So, in your opinion, what's the most important thing or the most important direction that people of consciousness in this country should be involved in doing?
I think that, you know, I don't want to say whatever the cause is, but I think we know what the good causes are. I think we know that we need to fight on behalf of the underserved. We need to fight on behalf of the people who are hungry, who are struggling, who are going through, you know, situations every single day that are in turn traumatizing them, that they're going through, you know, family or generational curses. Like, we need to be able to have consciousness about that and fight on behalf of a cause that will help them. And so for me personally, I know that in African American communities and poor communities, people are struggling. Lack of education, you know, lack of affordable housing. We need to be able to fight and be willing to do organizing activities to raise people's consciousness, whether that is door to door, whether that is community forums, but they need to be continual and they need to be consistent so that people know that there are issues. Well, they know that issues are going on, but they need to have some type of hope that other people are working on these issues and that they can join along too.
Now, a long time ago, I had this vision that if everyone helped the person that they came in contact with that was in a less position than they are, that it would just spread over.
Absolutely.
So it's not that you have to feel that you're hopeless, but you just have to, and that's what Mother Teresa said. I'm helping this one. Just help this one. Whoever it is that you come in contact that needs help.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
For me, I agree. Each one teach one. You see someone needing help, help them. I don't, it's kind of like Dr. King said, and even in the Bible, how can you not help the person next to you and then go to try to help someone else? I guess maybe in reference to the Vietnam War, like my brother next to me is struggling. How can I go somewhere else and try to fight there and help there if my brother that lives next door to me is struggling?
Right.
And if you can help your neighbor, then that neighbor gets stabilized. They can help their neighbor.
Right.
And it's just a chain reaction.
That's it. One helping another.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I understand that you met with Tom Sire. Do you want to tell us a little bit about him and if you feel that his programs are sufficient?
Yes, so I met with Tom in October. So my team and I and another organization in Columbus, we met with him. It was a last minute thing, but we run the organizations within the party, so they called and he said, hey, he would like to sit down and meet with you all. And so we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about, affordable housing, because that's just a real big thing going on in Ohio, and I'm sure everywhere. And we talked about the homicide rates that are climbing.
I think safety is primary.
Yeah, and so we talked about all of those things. What I will say about Mr. Steyer is that he has a wonderful team. My hope is that, he becomes more clear on the policies that he wants to implement. And this is not a hit on Mr. Steyer. I think that he's a wonderful person. And I enjoy, having that conversation and having that dialogue with him. But I think in order to cross the finish line, he's going to have to be clear about what his policies are specifically, for rural communities,
right.
specifically for, African American communities and things like that. Because he wasn't really clear. When I had asked him the question about the homicide rate, it was just like, in office, my first day in office, and I'm sorry if I'm not quoting this correctly, but my first day in office, I would implement with the DOJ to review all the tapes. It just wasn't clear to me.
Right.
I'll be honest. And
He has to be more clear.
He has to be more clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
For women, what do you think are the most important issues?
Reproductive rights. I think reproductive rights, it's not the only issue, but reproductive rights is a big thing. We want to be able to control our bodies and make decisions with our bodies. And not to just push this on men, but men are able to make decisions for themselves, and we should be able to do the same thing as well. And it's not rocket science. I believe a couple of days ago, it was the 43rd, or it was the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, and it's just disturbing that we're still fighting that fight to protect Roe v. Wade. Also, I think another thing that is important to talk about is, the income inequalities, the income inequity. White women in comparison to white men only make 75 cents on the dollar. Black women only make 65 cents on the dollar. Your Hispanic women only make 59 cents on the dollar in comparison to white men, and it's not fair. And those are inequities in every sense. In comparison to the white man, black women in comparison to white women, and then your Hispanic women in comparison to black women and white women. It's a problem, and it needs to be addressed.
Well, I have my own feeling about reproductive rights. Mm-hmm. I think with the DNA testing that we have now, mm-hmm. we should be able to establish who the father is of a mm-hmm. child, mm-hmm. and we should hold him responsible to support mm-hmm. the woman and the child as that child grows up. And I think if that was the case, women wouldn't be in a situation where they wouldn't be able to afford to take care of the children that they were impregnated with by the man.
Yeah, no, you know what, I think that that's a good point personally. I think that, you know, if I were in that situation, I'm not sure that I would, you know, go through with an abortion or something like that. That's me personally. But I still think that women have a right to make decisions. I think everyone has a right to make decisions in anything that they do. But personally, for me, I am a Christian, and I don't know if that's something that I could do, but I can understand, you know, why people do it. And I think in everything that we do, we have choices.
But we should have a choice for women where they could choose to have the child and not have to worry about having to be the entire support for that child.
That's true.
I think that's a right that we have as women, to be able to bear our children and know that we're going to have the father help us with the child. And I think if that was the case, men would be a little more careful as far as what they're doing.
That is true.
So that's true. My feeling.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you recently met with Congressperson Joyce Beatty. Can you discuss with us some of the things that you covered?
Okay. So I met with Congresswoman Joyce Beatty last Saturday. And I had an event with my organization and also a university, Capital University in Columbus, Ohio, their student government. I hosted the program, and I thought it would be just, since we were having it at the school, why not invite Capital University's student government to come? And we spoke to her specifically about, you know, the issues that affect Black and brown communities, and we spoke to her specifically about issues that affect students. In one of the questions that I asked her in Columbus, Ohio, I think today is January 23rd. I think we've had a homicide a day. And it's unfortunate. And that's something that I felt needed to be addressed. I talked to her about that. Also, I think we all know people who are graduating from school, they have an overwhelming amount of debt unless they've had grant scholarships or things like that. And we talked about that. We also talked about, you know, the job market. We talked about affordable housing. Is there anything in place as far as affordable housing that is going to create jobs? Is there something that she's going to do to, you know, sustain housing costs? Because we're having a lot of issues. We talked to her about LGBTQ rights and how can we protect those people. We also talked about diversity on Capitol Hill, because what we know is that in a lot of those offices we don't see women, a lot of women, or a lot of women of color, or LGBT persons and things like that. So we want to make sure that, you know, we have opportunities sitting there talking to her, that in the next 5 years my team or any of the other students could see themselves on Capitol Hill.
Right.
You know? So we talked to her about a plethora of things.
Okay.
And she was very receptive.
Now, you're doing such amazing work and bringing, and so selfless. How was your childhood? I mean, what were you up against growing up?
Well, I had an interesting childhood and I'll be honest, from probably birth to 12, it was really good. My mom was doing really well. But when I turned about 13, she got addicted to drugs. My mother, and my life wasn't the best. And I don't want to get emotional, but it wasn't the best. But when I turned about 19, I had a class in and I'm sorry for crying. But when I turned 19, I went to Ohio State, Newark, and I met a professor there. His name was William T. Dower. And we started talking about Dr. King and things like that, and he kind of got my soul burning. And then that's when I became interested in politics. But it took a long time, because that was before I had my son, so I think it was 2011.
Right.
And I didn't, as you know, I didn't get started till 2015.
Right.
As far as really working into politics, but that was the turning point for me, because then I understood that politics was the way to change the world. If you want to change anything in the world, you need to do it by policy and by legislation and things like that. So, childhood was pretty good until 12, 13 to about 18. It wasn't the best, but thank God that I knew. One thing my mom did instill, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this, despite her mess ups, she always let me know that I was able and I was capable and I was called to do great things. And so, whether she was doing the right thing or not, she had a demand on me to be the best that I could be. And thank God she's not there now, and she's amazing.
Okay. So basically, from your life, we can see that whatever you're facing now, and that's why it's so important for everyone to reach out to someone that is going through a difficult time. Because that person, if you reach out to them, they can actually join hands with everybody else and move forward to making the world a better place.
Yep.
Which you are doing.
Trying to.
And that's
definitely.
why we're so blessed to have you here with us.
Thank you.
And so excited about the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, how do you feel about the tenure that's happening in this country with white nationalists and this kind of backlash that's coming about?
Okay, so I think that that's kind of deeply rooted. I think that what we are realizing or what we're seeing is something that we hadn't seen in a long time, especially like my generation. And so it's new to us. But one thing I try to urge people to understand, and a lot of people who don't always look like me or didn't grow up, in earlier times, they think that it wasn't real or it didn't happen. And so for me, I think even for my organization is saying that white nationalism has always been here. But because of Donald Trump kind of rearing its ugly head and taking it off, now I think everybody is taken back by it. And so white nationalism is not something that is new. It's not something that is appropriate or acceptable either. But we just have to learn how to revert back to the tactics of Dr. King. Because that's a hero of mine. Obviously, I've never met him, but I loved how he handled situations like that, and he was very strategic, very, very strategic about how he handled situations. So he wasn't violent, as we all know, but he had the ear of the president, Lyndon Baines Johnson. He had the ears of your other local elected officials, and I think we just have to learn how to combat it and learn how to combat white nationalism strategically, and that's by community organizing. That's by having to sit down with your elected officials. That's by trying to figure out some type of way. You can't make someone do the right thing. You can't change people's mind, but you can make them respect you in a sense. It's like, I don't know if respect is the right word, but you can say, you're not touching me. I don't know what you do at home, but you're not touching me. You know? I don't know if that's the best way to answer that, but
so what you're saying is that it's always been there.
Absolutely.
And by Mr. Trump, and I won't call him president, by Mr. Trump, bringing it out, then you're not kidding yourself anymore.
Absolutely.
And you do have to deal with it. And what I see is that it's not only affecting people of color, it's affecting our Jewish population as well.
Absolutely.
Because
overwhelmingly.
White nationalists are not interested in being respectful to anyone but white nationalists.
Absolutely.
So I see an increase in because of, what's going on. I see an increase in the violent acts against people of the Jewish faith, of the Hebrews. It's just, so it's bringing it to a head, and we as a people have to say, that's not Christian, that's not right on a humanistic basis, whether you're a Christian or whether you're a humanist. We all have a right to coexist here, and we all have gifts to give.
Absolutely.
And it is un-American, because America was formed under the fact that we are one nation, indivisible, under God.
Yeah. And it's just hoping, that I guess maybe not now, because we have Mr. Trump in the White House, is getting the government to understand and realize what they put on paper, right? We are one nation under all, under God, for all,
Indivisible.
under God, indivisible, so we need to make sure that, government understands that, to line up with what they said.
I find that a lot of what's going on is a result of corporate involvement in politics.
Mm-hmm.
But that we as a people, if we get together and we register to vote and we do have our voices heard,
Yeah.
that we can overturn them. It's
Yeah.
just the bottom line is you have to do the work. You have to do the work to find out who's lying and who's not lying, and you have to watch people and find out who's really true to the American spirit and who's looking to make money for themselves.
Absolutely. I was on a panel a couple months ago, and I said the same exact thing. And I said that because it's like, we have to understand, and I'll probably get a little deep, but I'll keep it quick. We have to understand that in politics you need money, right? You need money to run a campaign because you need to be visible. But the reality is if you or I, and not literally you, but you or I and other community members are not giving our elected officials money, the elected officials that we believe in, they have to get it from somewhere else. Therefore, that means when that corporation or whatever has an initiative that they want them to push, because they gave them X, Y, and Z amount of dollars, they're going to feel obligated to push that initiative. We're going to get a lot more support from our elected officials, I think, if we start donating to them, because then they're not pulled by corporations and banks and things like that. And not saying that, personally, I think that we need to hold our elected officials accountable, but this is just a personal thing. If you are an elected official, you have a job. And no dollar should be able to determine the job that you got sworn in to do. That's how I feel. But because we know every elected official does not operate like that, we got to learn how to start donating our money to those elected officials. We have to learn how to start organizing on behalf of those elected officials. So your point is exactly the same point I made two months ago. We got to start helping them, or else they're going to be controlled.
Or we have to make it so that it's a level playing field.
Absolutely, campaign reform.
Exactly.
So you can't take over, I don't know, $1,000 or something like that,
Right.
But some of them are getting 200, 300, large.
A lot of them are getting millions.
Exactly.
So, Latyna, thank you so much for coming. Latyna flew in from Columbus, Ohio to be with us today, and we truly appreciate you coming and filling us with all your wonderful things that you're doing and your vision for the future for the U.S. and all of the United States as citizens.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nan. I appreciate you. Thank you.
We appreciate you.